all of us from different parts of the world, belonging to different groups, ages, but with a quest for doing what we feel needs to be done. You see, just remember this. This is a theme, education for leadership. I remember the words of Nelson Mandela. There are two kinds of leaders. One leaders, jo kursi mein baithte hai. Suddenly you see a leader sitting out there, up in the dais, okay? But Nelson Mandela said, there are another kind of leader, someone who pushes million others from the back. That is also a leader. Remember, success is not always when we sit at the CEO's post. Success is when you are able to work in the most remote part of anywhere in the world you are from and able to better the lives of even 10 others. That itself is success. So that is something that I would like to. Number two, think a moment. We always say, you think, all right, because some of us are mixed speakers. Are we different from all of you? No, we are not. Think of your own name your parents gave to each one of you. Remember what you're called. And remember that change is not when a million others strive for in Jantar Mantar or Tahrir Square or in New York, Times Square. Change also begins from your own home, your community. Any action that you do which you enjoy itself is what is important in life. For me, education for leadership. I did my research. I came to Delhi from Manipur to be a physicist, but I missed Miranda House physics by 0.2% and ended up doing my master's and degree in international relations from JNU. I don't regret. But what I realized after having my research done, written 4 books, is what is the use of education which is not used for social good? I worked in London for 2 years, but decided to come back to India because the place where I am from, the northeast of India, Mr. Khemka remembered China, and we all prayed. But he forgot the eastern part of India, where 50,000 people have died in a 60-year-old conflict, where in the past 1 month, a whole village have disappeared in flash floods in Manipur. In fact, I couldn't respond properly to this conference because we are organizing relief materials to be sent across the state. Right now, so many Sikhs have gone and done langars there. So right now, after this, I'm going to run back and catch the flight day after tomorrow to Manipur. So education is not that you become professors or just sit in those places. Education is when you're able to make a difference in your own lives. Family is very important. Lives of communities around you, your nation, and the world. Everything is related. That's the first point which I want you to take back home today. Second, I will just ask a question. Suppose if you go 100 rupees or $100, out of that, you spend more than $80 in buying a gun. Out of $100, $80 you spend in buying a gun. What happens to the $20? You have to, from the 20, you have to buy your clothes, your food, your rent, everything, okay. Now, in the next like 6 or 7 minutes that I have been given, God Almighty, I hope that I can complete it. What I want you to remember is how in this particular world are we spending our resources? Where are we spending our resources? Every day you tune in to CNN or BBC or Aaj Tak, whatever channel, what comes to you? Violence, anger, fight in our parliaments. Have you ever switched a TV and felt peace? Tell me. You know why? It took me 10 years of research to find what was happening. And particularly the experience came from my home state, Manipur, where I was born, where there is a conflict for 60 years, and more than 20,000 women have been widowed because of this conflict. And I realized that many of us need to respond to that violence. Many of these women were widowed because their husbands were shot dead. You know, conflict exists in our own minds, isn't it? Conflict exists even with your dad or your mom. Conflict is a part of life. But what happens when you have a gun in your hand? That conflict can turn lethal. You know how many rounds an AK-47 have? In 1 minute, how many rounds it can fire? In a minute? Close. 600 rounds. So imagine in 1 minute, you can take the lives of hundreds of people in 1 minute. That is the lethality of what is happening in today's world. So what happened? So in Manipur, when I realized a lot of people are being shot dead because of gun violence, and I realized people like you and me, we cannot create a human life. With all the intelligence and computers in the world, try to create a human being. Or try to bring back your loved one who is dead alive. Try. You will not. But we have created weapons which can take lives so easily and justify. So the experience we saw in Manipur, where so many lives were just cut short because of easy availability of guns. These guns are not Indian made. They come from 13 countries. United States of America have never heard of Manipur, but your M16s are now in my region in this country. Killing lives, taking lives. And we all think it's normal. When I came to Delhi, I realized I grew up in abnormal conditions. It's not normal when your life is constantly at threat. We have guns of 300,000 Indian troops. We have guns of 72 armed groups pointing at you. That life is not normal. That's how we grew up. But as many of us in this room and as inspiring people in the world, we know that yes, with our knowledge and education, how do we turn that to change and transform the life is our quest. So what we did, so we started researching and writing what is happening. So I documented for my research in JNU. I went backpacking for 2 years and tracked different arms routes. And we discovered weapons, as I said, from 13 countries flooding the northeast region of India. Okay. Number one. Number two, then the book which I wrote called South Asia's Fractured Frontier, I did not realize by the time that I was writing, because I thought the violence and the conflict is only in the northeast of India. But when I discovered a UN document saying that it is not nuclear weapons which kill people in the world. It's small arms and light weapons kill 500,000 people a year worldwide. Do you know how many Indians, forget Northeast or Kashmir, wherever there is violence, how many Indians die each day because of gun violence? The Mumbai attack in the Taj Palace was not the only attack where many died. Every day, 12 Indians are shot dead. In the past couple of years, more than 500 students have been shot dead in different gun violence incidents around the world, more than 700 plus injured. So we are becoming a world where there is violence, but as I said, now what happened? So after I wrote my book on the various issues of why the weaponization of our society in the Northeast, and my book had an ISBN number which made many people in the world realize that there's a book written on this, and one day I received a call which invited me to a meeting in New York at the United Nations, where as a researcher I had to observe the governments and how they were trying to tackle gun violence. Because in the year 2001, the United Nations developed its first historic program of action to combat that. And I'm going to show you this thing. Sorry, I didn't put it in a projector, but you look at the triangle, and please embed this triangle in your minds. I was walking near the UN General Assembly in New York, and suddenly I saw this triangle. This triangle shows how the world is spending its resources. The brown one, the biggest, is on military defense spending. And you know, for eradicating electricity, and there are $1 trillion US spent each year in the world on weapons. Number two, so if you look at the different small colors, these are for combating, eradicating illiteracy, deforestation, climate change, all this. But as long as this triangle in the world exists, remember, there will be conflicts. We have to tilt this upside down. Only then we can have equitable peace, justice, no wars. Because no human being sitting in this room or beyond, who doesn't want a peaceful life where we return home and feel the safety, the comfort of our own loved ones doing well in our lives. Okay? So this is what I would like to bring. Now, so the work that we have started, in 2004, we formed what is known as the Manipur Women Gun Survivors Network to respond to this, okay? And I'll just take through a couple of slides. I was asked to speak on battling gun culture. So what we did was to get all our research out so that people like yourself sitting in this room and others could understand. We got a young boy from Manipur whose 2 brothers were shot dead in the conflict, and he was never a trained artist. He did this series of images which I will just take you through. What kind of world are we offering our children today? A world that is filled with violence and guns? How many more lives will be lost in a hail of bullets each day of our lives? Today we will tell you a story of how guns have proliferated and taken over our lives. Did you know that an estimated 650 million small arms are circulating in the world today? 650 million, and it's more actually now. Each of these weapons we photographed from sources and tracked them down. Okay. See this. 16 million bullets are produced each year. For every one of us sitting in this room, already 2 bullets have been marked for us. It all takes 1 bullet to change a life or take a life. If you think mobile companies are the only ones proliferating in the world, you're wrong. We have 1,135 companies in 98 countries manufacturing arms, ammunitions, and other components. And if you think it's only in Big Bazaar that you get buy one, get one free, for every M16 illegal, which is traffic, you get a landmine free. And this is not from any internet source. This is from an investigation we have done on how, you look around you. You see, in India, we have 2 kinds of weaponry circulating. One is the katta, which is manufactured in Bihar, UP, and you get that in 1,000 rupees. Only it fires 1 shot. But it takes a life. Soumya Vishwanathan was a 20-something journalist driving home in Vasant Kunj. She was shot dead in the middle of the night. Till now, we could not catch who killed her. But she was shot dead by a katta. 2 rupees bullet. 1,000 rupees took someone's daughter's lives away, which still haunts the country. That is the level of violence that has entrenched our lives, but we feel that everything is all right. I'm not trying to scare you. Don't feel scared. Okay? I come from a place where there are 1 million guns. Sometimes people ask me, Bina, why don't you have a gun license? I said, never in my life. Never. Because the way to respond to a violence is not more violence. It's non-violence should be the befitting answers to those who claim that they control this world through guns, power, and through violence. This is what we as young people have to confront. And this is what is the mirror that we have to show to our parents, to our policymakers, and to our governments around the world. I believe in the United Nations. I always say this to my people. First, you have biological parents who take care of you. Then the government should be second set of parents. Then who are the grandparents? United Nations. No country can remain in the world in isolation. Everything is related. So, but then what happens? There's also politics there. The permanent P5 members of the UN Security Council produces 88% of the world's weapons. You will have to confront the UN too someday. So these are from Manipur, the journey that we started to find why there is violence in this tiny state of India, took us to what is happening around the world and saw the kind of arms proliferation that is there. Okay. As I said, what is the story of gun violence in my country? As I said, it's not only Kashmir, Jharkhand, or in Northeast where there is violence. Look around you and you'll say, Over 40 million firearms in India. 12 Indians die each day due to gun violence. And India is likely to become the world's largest arms market and a producer too. Now, if civilians have a lot of ownership now, and 90% of the killings in today's wars, as I said, is not because of nuclear weapons, it's small arms and light weapons. This is a data from Manipur that the way in which we map each time the way arms are smuggled. Okay. Now, what is the impact of these arms proliferation in their lives and society? Gun violence kills a lot of people and injures many. Every year, hundreds of women and children are killed and traumatized or intimidated. The work that we do in Manipur in 300 villages is we look at survivors of gun violence, particularly women. We set up their bank accounts. It costs only 500 rupees at that time to set up a bank account, and we give them small micro loans, not loans like grants, to let them stitch. The half sari I'm wearing is woven by Manipuri women. So there's a lot of things that, like economic generation of income in those families is something that we work with now. And let us not take the right of our children to live. Together we must teach our children before someone teaches them violence. Okay. Now, we cannot continue, and how do we teach our children ways of peace and non-violence? I have seen the note, okay? Give me 2 more minutes. So I'm a part of a curriculum in Government of India, NCRT, which is called Education for Peace. So I'm a committee member of that. So we are also trying how to, as you learn about the different wars and the conflicts, how do you also teach our children in our syllabus about peace education? In fact, a professor in Jamia Millia Islamia has completed a complete module on peace education, and I'm very happy to share with anyone who's interested. So again, and what happens is, for more than 10 years, the work that we started in Manipur, an international campaign started called the Control Arms Campaign, and 2 years back an international treaty was passed called the UN Arms Trade Treaty, which regulates these movements around the world so that we do not have a world which is lots of weapons circulating around us. So in terms of, okay, I'll just end with, okay, so the point that I would like to leave you with is challenges are there in our communities and in our nations, in our countries, wherever we are from. But it will require, ask a lot of questions, okay? For me, when I grew up, I asked a lot of questions. If you see something wrong, don't just keep quiet. Ask, raise a question. Ask why this is happening. If you keep quiet, then you're a party to the violence and the problems which is happening. Asking questions have led us to where we are now. If I was angling for a high-level job, and I have been to Harvard, I have taught in more than 40 institutions around the world, and I'm still going back again. I've just come back from New York, and I'm on teaching assignments in American universities all the time around this country too. But what is it that each one of us should be left with? What is the way in which education should leave us with? A good education is to ensure that you feel good in charge of your lives, but to also ensure that you don't think only about yourself, your family, but you also think about your community, your community, your country, and also of the world, because we all inherit one earth and one moon and sun for all of us. So in terms of again, we should no longer, in this world of being caught in the crossfire, I think, through our research, our writings, advocate, like you may be in the best universities and institutions, but ensure that you go and volunteer at grassroots level, because a lot of our work is very seminar-oriented in hotels and in big conferences halls. Do that, it's important. But you also should reach out, muddy your hands and feet. And there's a different joy to being connected with the real world. When you connect your high-tech world with a world where life is just basic, it's then when you can be actually master transformers for change. And thank you for your attention and for the education which makes us all we are. Thank you.
tGELF, leading the change.